Okay.
Okay, this is Tony Miller from the prosecutor's office, and he's going to be teaching us about internet safety, how to be safe when we're on the internet. So
Right.
Tony, thank you so much for coming.
No problem. And I'm going to put that right there so it's not so awkward. First of all, I apologize for the kind of clunkiness of this. I've done one Zoom meeting with a PowerPoint before, and this is working a little bit more smoothly, but I'm just not used to it. I'm used to being in front of people. So bear with me as I go through that. What this is, I want to let everybody know what this program is. This program is put together by an outfit called the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or we say NCMEC for short. What they are is exactly what they say they are. They are a center that focuses on missing and exploited children. And for example, if a child goes missing, they have resources. They also, as part of what they do, is put out educational and information material and sort of a subcategory or a sub group that they have. It's called Netsmartz. And you can find Netsmartz, that's Netsmartz, on the internet. Just Google it, it'll come up. And what that has is that's sort of the branch of the NCMEC that has all the information and educational material. And as part of that, they have certain PowerPoints. They have PowerPoints geared towards kindergarten age children, middle school age children, high school aged young adults, and also adults/parents. They also have resources for educators and law enforcement people. So there's a number of sources of information through Netsmartz that is available. I pulled this presentation from Netsmartz. It's available free online. You just have to download it. They make that available. And what they do with it is they, of course, tailor it towards the particular age group. In this case, I've got it tailored towards more adults, older people, rather than, kindergarten. If I was doing it, and I have done a lot of presentations at schools, I would pick the presentation that's tailored towards that. You'll find that some of the material is literally cartoonish, but it illustrates a point. Some of the videos are not cartoonish. So just if it seems a little young or cartoonish, that's the way they've put it together. One reason I like to use information from Netsmartz is because I know that it's age appropriate. If I go pull some program or put together a program on my own, inevitably there might be something in there that someone might feel is not age appropriate or inappropriate to be discussing. And then that becomes a problem. A parent gets upset or something to that effect. With this, it's put together by the people that care the most about kids, if you want to say that, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You can't get more kid friendly than that. So it's a good program. It illustrates the points I think that are important, and I think it's appropriate material. So with that, let's get started. I will go ahead and play this PowerPoint. And again, this PowerPoint is a mixture of regular written slides and some videos. How long, Tammy, how long do you have for me?
We have until 11 if you need until 11.
Okay. That helps me because I can kind of fast forward through some of the videos and tailor it to the time frame. Okay. Now, can everybody see the screen still?
Yep.
Okay. Again, here's what, there's the Netsmartz little logo, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This is where you can find a lot of the information. If you Google this information, it'll pop right up. It's right at the top of Google. And what I want to talk about today is internet safety. And one thing I want to stress is that in today's world, you have to take the internet like a door. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you're in your home, you're safe. When you go outside your home, you literally walk through a door and walk down the street, you are exposing yourself to certain hazards. We all know what those are. There are bad people out there. There are, you have cars, you have trucks, you got to be careful crossing the street. There's just hazards out there. The problem is that people do not view the internet the same way as they do a door to their home, but they should. Because when you go through the internet, you're actually opening the door to a different world, right? You're stepping out into a world that is not as safe and protected as your home. It is actually a door, and you have to look at it that way. And you have to say, okay, I'm going into this other world. Are there hazards? And of course there are. And we're going to talk about some of those. So when you go on the internet, consider that a door to your home. You've opened a door now, and now you're stepping out into a different world that contains certain hazards. What are those? Well, we have online predators, right? I mean, some people have heard of that. We have people out there that will groom certain individuals for certain purposes, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. What I mean by grooming, we're going to talk about that in this presentation. There are internet bullies. I would expect that everybody that's a part of this meeting right now has at some point in their life been bullied by somebody. So I don't need to really explain what that means. But when we talk about internet bullies, we're talking about a particular type, and we are talking about something that's a little different than I ever had to deal with. When I was young, even when I was older, as much as 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we had the internet, but it wasn't as developed as it is now. We didn't have the social media sites that we have. You could escape people. If you didn't like being around someone, you could simply go home. Well, now with the explosion of social media sites and other internet activity, it's harder to get away from people. So the bully has more access over the internet to you than they ever had before. When I was young, we just didn't have this. If there was a bully at school, at least I could go home and I would be safe at home, and the bully really couldn't get to me. Well, now with social media sites, they're pinging your phone, or they're on your computer, or they're on your social media site. It's constant. And when we talk about online devices, we all know what those are. They're computers, cell phones, gaming consoles, e-readers, probably to a lesser extent, and tablets, right? Kids nowadays and adults nowadays have a number of these devices. I have a tablet, I have a computer, and I have a phone. All of them have access to the internet. All of them have access to social media sites. So that means the hazards that are out there on the internet can have access to me through those devices. Again, you have to think about going on the internet as walking out of your door to your home into a different world. What do we do with these devices? Well, we all know it's sort of self-explanatory because we've had them around now for the first iPhone came out in 2007. So, for a decade and a half, we've had these devices. What do we do online? Some of the stuff we do online is great. It is sped up information access greatly. We do research. If you're watching a documentary on a TV and something comes on you're not sure about, you can Google it right there on your phone and have the answer. That's all good stuff. We can keep in contact with old friends like we never could before. We can actually see pictures of them and their kids and their dog and their house and where they live and all that. That's good stuff. Couldn't do that before. But with that comes certain hazards as well. There are certain things that the social media websites and so forth do to try to stop the flow of bad information, which we'll talk about probably here in the next slide. But you have to know that there's only so much that the technology companies can do. They can revise their safety settings, they can put in certain filters and so forth. But on the other side of this are a group of people who are actively trying to get around that stuff and still get to you, the internet user, and provide things that are inappropriate. And if you've got a bully, there's certain ways bullies can figure out how to get around your protective measures and those that are built in by technology companies. So what does that mean? That means ultimately you, the internet user, need to protect yourself, so to speak. On the street, when you walk out of your house, you do certain things. If somebody approaches you and you don't like that, and they're bullying you or they ask inappropriate things, what are the things you do on the street if you do that? If you're out at the mall or you're walking down the street and somebody comes up to you and says something mean to you or asks you for inappropriate things, what do you do? Well, you tell them no. You might walk away. You might run away. You might go tell a police officer, depending upon the situation. Well, all those sort of things, protective measures that you own, that you are capable of doing on your own, are also available electronically. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that, how to sort of in the cyber environment run away from the bad guy, so to speak. Okay, we all know what we do on the street, but how do we do it on the internet? Well, the first to answer that question, we have to understand what we're talking about, and when we're talking about unwanted material or activity. So we have a set of safety and security issues. We have inappropriate content. You can imagine what that is. We'll talk a little bit more about that specifically. Online privacy. Sexting is another one that really came about when I was doing juvenile court back in 2006. Seemed like every time we turned around, we had this sort of activity. Online enticement, meaning somebody contacting you, trying to get you to do things you know you shouldn't do, whether it be in the context of sexting or illegal activity or a number of things. And what I've already been spending a little bit of time on, this cyberbullying. So those are the things that we want to avoid, things we want to run away from and, keep out of our environment, our cyberspace. There are different risks for different ages. I think that stands to reason, right? I mean, there's certain younger kids are more vulnerable than someone that might be in their teens or an early adult. Some of that stuff crosses over age lines. And what do we have? In younger children, we want to teach them about netiquette, as they call it. It's sort of how you use the internet and not be obtrusive to other people. We want to talk to them about looking at inappropriate content. We want to talk to them about passwords and trying to protect themselves. Well, a lot of this stuff, as you can see from this slide, sort of carries over. We have cyberbullying when we talk about teens and middle-aged kids or middle school kids and so forth. So here's another one of these videos it's a little cartoonish, but it illustrates a point. Can you hear it?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Okay.
I hope you had as much fun this summer as we did. Nettie and Webster are already back in school, and they're super excited to start learning new things. They're also excited about making new friends. In fact, connecting with new friends is the topic of this month's brand new video. Keep watching to find out how Webster used his Netsmartz when connecting with new classmates online. Club UIN presents Connecting with New Friends Online. It was the beginning of the school year, and Webster was just getting to know some of his new classmates. He was surprised to learn that they shared so many of the same interests. Like Webster, Dell loved basketball, Ada liked the guitar, and Link played almost all the same video games as he did. He could tell this was going to be a great year. One day, Webster and his new friends were playing outside after school. Hey, do you have the Post-Pick app? Dell asked. Oh yeah, I love that one. Ada.
Can everybody see what's going on your screen right now? Can you see the cartoon or not? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Let's see if I can do something here. Well, let's go back.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
The point of that video, and it's not showing on the screen I want it to show on, I'm not certain why, is to say that when you go online, you may or may not know who you're talking to. And that goes for adults and or young people. I have a son who's a big gamer. I'm not such a gamer. When he goes online, I can hear him talking to his online friends. I've talked to him and explained to him that you don't actually know who that is on the other side, and that you need to be extremely careful on what information you let out to that person. And we have talked extensively about that. Now, he is 13 years old. Is that cautionary message relative to only a 13-year-old? No, that is important for even adults. The point is, when you go online, you don't know who you're speaking to, and they may be pretending to be somebody they're not. That is a particular hazard to the internet. If, again, we are out walking in the street and we come across somebody, we get an idea of who they are by how they look, their age, how they're dressed, how they speak, how they approach us. Unfortunately, on the internet, we don't have that luxury. Somebody can pretend to be somebody completely different than who they are, and they can show you pictures of somebody who is not them. You could have a 50-year-old man pretending to be a 16-year-old boy, vice versa. So you don't know who you're dealing with. You need to be extremely careful about that. What kind of content do these individuals put forward? Well, pornography, excessive violence, hate speech. We all know what hate speech is. Risky or illegal behaviors. What do we mean by that? Well, risky or illegal behaviors, some people might try to get you to do things that you would not otherwise do through the sort of autonomy or anonymousness of the internet. People tend to be a lot more brave behind a keyboard than they do in real life when they're out on the street. Internet bullies and people who are internet predators will take advantage of that. They'll say to you, well, just do this, do that, send this here, send this there. Nobody will know that you're doing it. You actually don't have to go to the place. You can just email it or send it electronically. That's a risky behavior. You would not do something like that if in real life, if you were out on the street. If somebody come up to you and said, hey, take this package and take it down to 5th Street and knock on the door and deliver it to somebody, you would be a little bit leery about that, and rightfully so. Well, the same sort of hazard exists when somebody asks you to do something online. You might feel more comfortable about doing it because you really never have to leave your seat. You never really have to leave your home physically. So you might be more willing to do that sort of thing, but it is equally problematic if you do that. You might be inadvertently helping somebody do something illegal and get yourself into trouble that way. So anytime that somebody asks you to do something online, think about it if you would do it if you were not online. And if you would not do it online, don't do it electronically. That's sort of the same rule that for everything online. If you wouldn't do it out in public, don't do it online. Now, how do you respond to people that if they ask you to do something you feel is inappropriate? Well, this is the sort of equivalent that I just mentioned a little bit ago about running away. If you're approached out in public and somebody asks you to do something you don't want to do, or they say something that is inappropriate, what do? You might walk away, or if it's really too much, you might run away. You might tell a friend, or you might tell a police officer, depending upon what the circumstances are. So how do you respond online? Okay. Well, first of all, if you have a friend that's involved in something like this, okay, and they come to you, stay calm, don't frighten them, listen to them, and tell them what really is true, and it's not their fault. And then help them report it. Again, depending upon the circumstances, you might want to report it to the police. You might want to tell another friend, or if you're in school, you might want to tell a teacher or someone else that you trust. Just depends on the circumstance. what should that person do? Or what should you do if you are confronted with somebody asking you to do something inappropriate or giving you inappropriate pictures to post, or just doing something asking you to do something you're not comfortable with? Well, we do the equivalent of running away. Like I said, on the street, we would turn and walk away or run away. Well, how do you do that when you're on the internet, right? You're already in your house. How do you do that? Well, you have a way of running away and avoiding them. Turn off the screen, use the back button, tell a trusted friend or adult, report it to a website or the app provider. Or there is this Cybertipline.org you can go to. Again, you can Google that and find that, and you can report any inappropriate internet activity to that cybertipline.org, and they will investigate it. You could report it if it's really bad. You could report it to your local police department, and they would investigate it. The point is, just like in the real life out on the street, you have the ability to run away. It's just a little bit different when you're talking about running away on the cyberspace. You just don't physically run away. You use your computer buttons and your back button, you turn them off, you do other things. Okay? What don't you do? You don't, if you're not comfortable with it, you do not do what they're asking you to do. You do not post inappropriate or illegal behavior, offensive language, or threats of violence, or hate speech. Okay? Just like on the street, if you were out in the real world, you wouldn't do the thing they're asking you to do that makes you uncomfortable. So don't do it online. Again, we do a lot of things online that are fine, right? But a lot of us have social media websites. What's okay and what's not okay to post on those? How do we keep ourselves and our information protected? What about pictures of family and friends? It depends who you are and what you do. I can tell you that my online accounts don't have my real name because of what I do. So I take a precaution that way, and maybe you want to do that. I don't post a lot about family and friends, particularly family, because of what I do. There are bad people out there who might try to look me up. I don't put on personal information. I don't put my phone number. I don't put my address. That would be really bad. I don't put out what kind of car I drive. I don't put out my family's names. All that kind of personal information can be used if you put it out there on your social media website by bad people, by people who want to bully you or get you to do things you should not otherwise do. Checking in, sharing current location online. I never do that. And I would recommend that nobody do that. Okay? If you want to let somebody know where you're at, you should probably let people who you trust know where you're at, not everybody in the world. You should also not share explicit or provocative pictures. We know what that means. That gets in the line of sexting. Okay? So those are some common sense things that we should not be putting out there, and that would just kind of make it harder for someone who wants to do us harm or cause us problems to find us. Maybe you're more comfortable. Maybe you're not in a job like mine, and you're okay using your real name on Facebook or whatever. That's fine. Your circumstance is your circumstance. Mine's different than yours. But just keep these things in mind as you post stuff online. Whatever you put out there can be used as information to find you. What kind of personal information we talk about? I hit on that. Okay, passwords. Don't give people your passwords. Your home address. That's one you do not want to give people. Where you're at. Not everybody needs to know where you're at all the time. People who are close to you and that you trust do. So if something happens, they can get to you. But not everybody in the world needs to know where you are. Home and cell phone number and email address. It's amazing what you can do with an email address. If somebody knows your email address, there are ways that bad people can sort of backtrack through that process and find out your information. For example, if you have an email process through Gmail or Hotmail or some other email provider, when you set up that account, sometimes they're getting better about this, but particularly when they first started, they wanted a lot of information about you. They would want your phone number, they would want your address and stuff because they wanted that in their database. Well, really smart people, and I knew one of these people, I prosecuted one of these people, could take that address and somehow, I don't know how, could get all of that information behind that email address. In other words, their name, where they live, phone number, and so forth. So there are people out there that can take your email address and find out a lot more about you than what you might think. So email addresses are a real security problem in a lot of ways. So if you put this information out there, what are you risking? Well, you're risking identity theft. That means somebody taking your personal information and acting like you and pretending to be you and buying things. And the person that's selling the item will think that it's you. It's a way of stealing things. So they can use your personal information to buy things that you didn't buy and that you're going to be held responsible for potentially. All kinds of other problems. Online enticement, we've talked about. Sexting, we've talked about. Okay. You just do not want, you wouldn't walk up to a stranger on the street and tell them your name, where you live, your social security number, your what kind of car you drive. You just wouldn't do that to a perfect stranger. But for some reason, people feel that it's okay to do that online. Again, there's this concept that you have to view online activity like you're outside your home and be just as careful. So anything you would do outside your home or would not do outside your home, as far as giving information to a stranger, you should not do on the internet. What do? We talked a little bit about this already. Establish rules about what you, or if you have children or loved ones, what they can share. You can help individuals set your privacy settings. If you need help with your settings, someone can help you do this. So these are things that you can do for others and that others can do for you to help keep your information safe. Sexting. What is that? I've used that word a little bit. It's sending or posting nude or partially nude images. This really took off like in 2006. We had a lot of juveniles doing this, still do. By what we see here on the numbers, 15% of teens have done it. 27% say they have received such information. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem in the sense that in some circumstances it's illegal and it carries a very big penalty to do that. If you are sharing images of juveniles, that is a very big crime for which you can go to prison for a long time. There's also social problems that come about with this. If you are sharing pictures of yourself, those can get posted in certain places you never intended, and you could have a lot of people bullying you or teasing you about that and causing you a lot of problems. Once that image is out, it's out. You can't get it back. And whatever the receiver does with that image, you really have no control over. So again, here's another example. You would not go out of the house and do anything like this on the street. So don't do it over the internet. Same rules apply. Why do people do this? There's a number of reasons. Okay. But it's not something you should engage in. Again, it's not something you would do in real life out on the street. So it's not something you should do over the internet. We have this feeling that if we do it over the internet, that we're somehow safer. We are not. Okay, that's another video. What are those consequences? okay, of sexting, sending those images? Well, humiliation, because here's what happens. If you send that image, or one of your loved ones sends that image to another person, that person takes it and with one click sends it to 20 other people. And then those people with one click send it to 20 more people. That has spread around to individuals that you never intended it to go to. And now they could start posting that picture in places that is embarrassing to you. You have no control over that. Once you send that image, you have zero control over it, and you can't get it back. You can be humiliated by where it ends up. People can blackmail you. They can say things like, well, if you don't do this for me, I'm going to send this picture to your mom and dad, or to your brother or sister. And they can blackmail you. So now you feel obligated to do something you wouldn't otherwise do. Otherwise, they're going to send that picture. If you're in school, there's school discipline. And as we talked about, if these images are actually of you and you are a juvenile or of another juvenile, you could get in really big police trouble. A lot of legal trouble with that people don't realize. So it's just not a good idea. You have both legal problems that could come about and social problems that could come about if you engage in this activity. Again, not something you would do out on the street, so don't do it online. How do we address it? Just the way we are right now. Okay. Talk about the consequences of it, which I've talked about. Okay. If you have somebody that's doing it, tell them never to forward a sexting image. All these things can help people not do it. Again, cybertipline.org is also a resource. How does this stuff happen? Well, it usually happens with somebody asking for a picture, right? They say, hey, send me a picture without any clothes on or something like that. That's how that occurs. Most of them happen on social networking sites, whether it be things like Snapchat or less likely Facebook. Okay, but there's a number of applications out there where this can occur. Okay. Most are not bothered by it until something happens that I've already talked about. They get humiliated somehow, or there's some sort of police involvement. Now, here's this word I've talked about, grooming. What does that mean? Well, there are particular bad people out on the internet who engage in this activity called grooming. And they are particularly bad people. They are a special kind of bad person. They will contact you and try to befriend you. They are very good at getting to know you with very little effort. The things you say tip them as to things you're interested in. They'll start very slowly and they will engage you in conversation. They will learn what you like. They will then use what you like to try to be your friend. For example, if you like football, they'll talk a lot of football with you. If you are a particular fan of a particular team, they will talk about that team. And pretty soon, what you will do is you will become very comfortable with them. They are doing what's called grooming. They are getting to know you, getting you comfortable, being very friendly with you, and then they're going to ask you to do something that you would not otherwise do once you're comfortable with them. Okay? They're very, very good at it. So when somebody starts a conversation with you online, I'm not going to say don't talk to them right off the bat, but if they start getting into topics that you're not comfortable with, that's when you know, okay, that they're trying to groom you and trying to get you to do things that you would not otherwise do. All right. One thing they like to do is send you a cell phone and say, here's a cell phone, only talk to me on this cell phone. That way, don't use your regular cell phone, use this cell phone. All right. That makes it harder for law enforcement people to track their activity. So if somebody ever says that to you, you know there's a problem. Somebody ever says, I'm going to send you a cell phone, you use that to talk to me. Don't use your regular cell phone. That is a real tip that there's a problem, and you should get away from this type of person. And there are more signs. Receiving gifts, calling unknown numbers. Okay, you call this number. Don't call me at my number. Call me at a different number. That's a problem. If they tell you to not pay attention to what your family and friends say, don't worry about them. Just listen to me. That's a problem. Okay. This is a video in the interest of time that I won't show, but the point of this video is that not all victims of online predators, particularly sexual predators, are female. Sometimes we have this idea that it's only females that are being targeted by these bad people. That's not true. Males, young adults are equally vulnerable and equally targeted by these type of people. So if you are a young male, don't think that you are not susceptible to being groomed by one of these predators online. Okay, you also need to pay attention to what this person is trying to get you to do, and always have in the back of your mind, are they trying to groom me and get me to do things I would not otherwise do? Okay. So what do you do? Well, if you have kids or you know people that are online, you can talk to them about these relationships. You yourself can talk about these relationships. When a slide like this says talk to your child about relationships, that also means you can talk about your relationships with somebody you trust. You can set policies for yourself about meeting people offline. I just wouldn't do it unless I know them personally, and in real life, I don't meet people that I've met online. I never have. Okay. Understand the warning signs we've talked about, the grooming process. You can call the police if it happens, or you can go to that cybertipline.org. They can help. Here's what a typical back and forth sort of conversation might look like. Okay. And the response that we would hopefully have is, bye, go talk to somebody else, keep some clothes on. And then whoever, that's child or whoever's getting this, would then contact the authorities or somebody they trust and say this is happening so that this can be investigated. I've mentioned this before, cybertipline.org. These are the people that can investigate this sort of thing. Anyone that sends you or your child photos or videos, I know that not all of you are adult or are parents. Maybe some of you are, most of you are probably not. So when it says something like anyone who sends your child photos, you can look at it as anyone that sends you photos or videos containing this information needs to be reported. Okay. Anyone talking to you in a sexual manner needs to be reported if it's inappropriate. Anyone who asks to meet you in person, you probably need to be a little bit concerned about. Don't do that. Don't meet people in person that you've only known online. The bullying aspect of this, we've talked about a little bit about it. And again, I want to reiterate, back in my day when we didn't have all this social media access, there were bullies at school. But when I went home, they weren't there. Home was a safe haven. When I was home, I was safe. That's not necessarily true nowadays, and we need to realize that. When you have bullying coupled with technology, you have what we call cyberbullying. And the problem with the cyberbullying is the people who are bullied can never really get away from it because you take your phone everywhere and you're always on the computer. So the bully has access to you all the time. You can't just go home and get away from them. What is cyberbullying? Well, sending mean texts, photoshopping pictures in an inappropriate or mean way, creating fake profiles and teasing people that way. There's all kinds of ways that people are cyberbullied. Okay. And as I've said, it's sort of a unique way of bullying. It spreads fast. It's a huge audience that the bully can reach, and it follows you home. You can't get away from it. So it's particularly bad. Suicide is a problem among people who are cyberbullied. It's rare, but it is a problem. And so we need to take it very, very seriously. Again, there's no break from it. So it's constant. Again, I go back to when I was young. I could go home. I was safe. But now it's constant, and it drives people who are bullied crazy that they can't get away from it. I just really, really dislike this sort of activity. I've had to deal with some people who are cyberbullying when I was doing juvenile court, and it could get really bad for the person that's being bullied. They feel like they have nowhere to go. They can't get away from it. Okay. We have, when we're talking about cyberbullying, we really have three characters that come into play. We have the cyberbully, we have the victim, and then we have another group of people that are bystanders. You cannot be a bystander and think, well, it's not happening to me, it's okay. If you're a bystander, if you see somebody bullying somebody else, whether it be in real life or on the internet, you have to do something, because the victim of that bullying may or may not feel empowered to take care of themselves. There's really no gray area here. You have to report it. You have to help the victim. You can do it in a safe way. We'll talk about that. But if you're a bystander, there's no way of taking yourself out of that situation, so to speak. You can do something as simple as anonymously telling a person in authority that this is happening. But you have to do something, because again, the victim may not feel empowered to do that for all kinds of reasons. How do you spot if somebody's being cyberbullied? Well, they may stop using the computer. They may be nervous when receiving an email. They may not want to go to school. They may withdraw from family or friends. If they change their behavior in a way that is concerning to you, you need to think about whether or not they're being bullied, and particularly cyberbullying. Ask them about it. Ask them what's wrong. And then if there's, tell them you're there to help them. Again, if you're a bystander, you should be there to help. Well, how do you help? Well, you can help the person solve the problem. How do you do that? Well, you can be their voice. A lot of people who are bullied do not feel that they're strong enough or empowered enough to report what's happening. You can do that for them. You can help them save the evidence of the bullying. You can help them learn how to block cyberbullies. You can help them learn how to set up new accounts. You can help them all with that. You can talk to the, again, people in authority, whether it's a school or police officers or another friend, or you can report it to the cybertipline.org. The point is, there's a number of ways that if you're a bystander and you see or suspect somebody of being bullied, that you can help and not put yourself at risk. So just be aware of those. Cyberbullying behaviors. How can you spot a cyberbully? Now, not all of these, just because somebody does these things does not necessarily mean they're a cyberbully, but sometimes you can tell when somebody's doing something inappropriate online. They quickly switch screens. They use the computer constantly. Get upset if they can't use the computer. They're kind of evasive, or they avoid talking about what they're doing. or they have multiple online accounts because they like to hide behind accounts that are truly not them so that they can't be discovered. Now, there may be people that have multiple online accounts who are not cyberbullies. There may be people who don't like to talk about what they do online because they're just because. It doesn't necessarily mean they're cyberbullies, but these kind of behaviors, particularly if there's a number of them going on at the same time, might indicate that somebody's doing something inappropriate. How do you prevent it? Well, this really talks about how you can help others prevent it. Okay. But they also apply to you individually. You can tell yourself that you simply have certain expectations for yourself and as to how you're going to be treated, and you're not going to let anybody else treat you differently. You can say to yourself, if I'm being cyberbullied, I'm going to go tell somebody. You can yourself be a role model for good online behavior so that you set an example for other people. So if you know somebody who's being bullied, you can help them prevent it, but you can also do things to prevent it from happening to you. And it all, again, there's only certain things the internet providers can do. You have to be able to do these things yourself and protect yourself. If you have younger people in your life using the internet, whether they're your children or not, you can help them by, again, establishing expectations for reporting, encouraging them to stand up for a victim. Again, this idea of being a bystander and helping the person who's being bullied is an important one. And all these things you can do yourself. If you are being bullied, you can stand up for yourself. You have the power to do that. You just need to tell the right people. And that right person could be somebody that you're close to that can help you. It can be a police officer or someone you trust. The technology companies provide options for people that want to protect themselves. You can install filtering. You can talk to your cell phone provider about blocking certain numbers, or now you can block that number right on your phone if somebody's calling you and you don't want to be bothered by that person. I actually tell people to do this all the time. I have victims of other crimes who are being contacted by the perpetrators' family members, and they say, Tony, what do I do? They won't stop calling me. Block their number. You know, if you've got a smartphone, you can block the number. If not, if you have one of the old style phones, you can call a cell phone provider, and they have ways of doing that for you. You can change your security information online. You can set up a different account. There's all kinds of ways. But if that the technology companies can help you, you just need to contact them or contact somebody who knows how to deal with the technology companies. Again, technology companies can't do it all, so you need to communicate with them if you have a problem. Okay, again, the information that's available through Netsmartz is extensive. I can't go through all of it here, but you can go to netsmartz.org and find all the information that you need, and probably more than what you need. Again, all you have to do is Google that Netsmartz, and it will pop up, and you can click on the link, and you'll have all this information available to you. Okay. There's a little bit of time. Does anybody have any questions? I kind of went through this pretty quickly. Covered two real topics, cyberbullying and the sexting aspect of this, and how to avoid those activities. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
You did a wonderful job. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Yeah, sorry, it was quick, but again, there's these resources out there that if you need more information, you can contact them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks.
Okay, everybody have a good day. Thank you.